My name's James Brien, and I'm the founder of Easy Online Divorce. My journey started when I was facing my own divorce a number of years ago. Being quite a practical person, immediately I started to look for solutions and how I would be able to get myself through the situation. I used to work for corporate companies with law firms, and whilst it's amazing to have fantastic lawyers on your side, they're very, very expensive. And so one of the things that I realised that when I was going through my own divorce is that I want to get through my divorce without spending unnecessary amounts of money on legal fees. And I also wanted to see my children as much as possible. And that kind of sort of centered my direction and focus and how I dealt with my own divorce. As I was going through it, I kind of realised there was a lack of information from a male point of view. And I was kind of going through that, and maybe a dark moment, I made a promise to myself, God, if I get through this situation, I'm going to write a book to help other people going through divorce. And that's really how it started for me. And I wrote this book and didn't think anything else of it. It was just to kind of almost pay back, if you like. And then when I'm back on with my life, but I started to get people who contacted me and thanking me about the book and how it had helped them. And I began to think it started to become difficult to turn my back on it, because I was helping real people. I kind of struggled with that for a number of months until I decided to write a second book that was, focused for men and women. And this book really took off. It was called The Mindful Divorce. And then I was in a situation of, well, what do I do now? Because clearly it was having an impact. Clearly it was helping people. And I came to the realization that if I could help couples reduce their legal fees and the amount they spent on their divorce, then I'd be able to help a lot more people than some books. During marriage, money is one of the biggest kind of contributing factors to arguments and conflict, and it continues way after couples separate and split up. And so that's how I came to found Easy Online Divorce, a low-cost alternative to the kind of traditional route of both parties having opposing solicitors who, fight to get their best deal and obviously drive the costs up. Nothing can prepare you for divorce. Obviously, if you've not had a divorce before, everything that you know about life, everything that's normal to you is suddenly taken away from you in some respects. So everything that you've worked hard for, you're losing some of that. You're going to lose some of that. Your children that you've seen every day, you maybe took them to school, read them bedtime stories. Often that is going to change in some way. All of your social life around your family and your family friends, and you've made friendships with other people that are married. Everything that you kind of come to know is going to change, and that can be immediately. So you've suddenly moved out of the house, so that's something that's going to happen over time, but it is going to have a huge impact on your life. And one of the things that I realized was the loneliness, suddenly being on your own and come to terms with that, come to terms with all of the change and the stigma around divorce as well. And myself personally, I was so embarrassed about going through a divorce. I didn't tell anybody. I told the smallest amount of people that I could possibly tell. I felt like a failure. And so I didn't tell anybody. And of course, you do eventually, you kind of come through the other side and, you find your kind of new life, if you like. I got to a point where one of my closest friends at work, she had no idea that I was actually separated. And then I felt embarrassed because I'd left it for so long without telling her. I felt like a bad friend for not telling her in the first place. So when I was going through this and when I wrote my first book, part of it was all about come to terms with it. And yes, it kind of dealt with the practicalities of seeing your children and sorting out your finances and how you would do the divorce, but also it kind of looked at how you go about rebuilding your social life, because this is what I had to do. I'd spent my life working and spending time with my family. And suddenly there was a big gap in my life. That's what I focused on in the books, that journey. Nobody wants to go through a divorce, but it isn't the end of your life. It's a chapter. It's an unfortunate thing that you have to go through that, but sometimes it is the right thing to do, and there is a life after that, and that's what I want to get across when we're helping people and helping them through the divorces and helping them through the finances. Yes, we're doing all of that practical stuff and all of the legal stuff, but at the same time, I want us to change the stigma around divorce, because it isn't something that you should be ashamed of. It isn't something that you should be embarrassed about. It's a normal thing that a lot of people end up going through in their life.